What a year, huh? What do you mean it's only March? Well, it's time for Guild Wars again. I would say it pays the bills, but I really don't win anything.
Smash the dragon, may it never rise up again.
Well, we all know the number one complaint from normal people is that the game is just too overwhelming, especially once you reach max level. And to be fair, that's kind of true. Because Guild Wars doesn't rely on traditional vertical progression, hitting level 80 doesn't exactly narrow your path. And over the years, more and more systems have piled on, and suddenly you're staring at a dozen different directions you could go. I certainly remember maps like the Silver Wastes. So many new icons, things constantly happening, and lots of people running everywhere. Even if it feels a little bit abandoned nowadays. No wonder players that use the level 80 boost get flashbanged by it. And at first, that complaint may sound a bit counterintuitive, because having multiple choices is usually considered to be a good thing. But being pulled from so many directions at once can easily cause what is called decision paralysis, which in extreme cases can make you leave the game. This is not something I just pulled from my behind. It's a real psychological principle that can be applied to game design. And if you're interested in it, it's easy enough to find information about it. Another thing about the lack of vertical progression that works as a bit of a double-edged sword is that on one hand, you never really feel like you're falling behind. But on the other hand, without the constant need for equipment upgrades, people just feel lost and eventually leave. This is meant as a sequel to my leveling video, an attempt to help newer players navigate the game from the perspective of a mostly solo, casual player. I am not claiming my way is the only way, and definitely not the most optimized way. I'm going to try and give as much information as I can to steer players in the right direction, and I'm going to leave plenty of links in the description, because it never hurts to do your own research as well. With all the warnings out of the way, get ready, I'm going to free your mind.
Smash the dragon, may it never rise up again.
Now, everybody will be quick to point out that it's very possible to keep playing at max level with just the core free game and have fun. And that is very true. You still have access to dungeons, most fractals, and dynamic events all over the world. You can still get some legendaries, get involved in World vs World and PvP, among other things. Most of the advice in this video will still work for you even if you decide to not spend any money on it. But the reality is that at some point you're going to have to buy something to keep enjoying the game. And the game itself, it's pretty good at worming its way into your brain. One day you're going to start browsing a character build site and go, oh, this looks pretty cool. But the Conduit Elite spec needs Visions of Eternity, and the Dragon stats need the End of Dragons expansion, and that particular relic needs Secrets of the Obscure. Now I'm $80 in the hole. Thank you very much, autistic need to run a meta build. Listen, if you have seen one of my videos before, you probably know that I hate spending money, whether it's real or digital. The only advice I can give is to wait for a sale. All the expansions go on sale several times a year, and you know what? It's cheaper than a monthly subscription, and the hours played versus dollars spent ratio is pretty good. So now let's say you're convinced you want to buy something. What should you buy? It all depends on what you want. Do you want a specific mount, or a specific elite spec, or access to a specific weapon type? I know it sounds overly complicated, and it is, but thankfully there is a very useful wiki page that gives detailed information on what you unlock with every expansion. My personal recommendation is that the bare minimum should be the Heart of Thorns plus Path of Fire pack, which during a discount is going to run you around $15 to $17. Also, I really like Living World Seasons 3 and 4, because they are a nice source of ascended quality accessories, and you could get the sky scale, if you dare. After that, just evaluate every few months if you need something else. Just take it easy on your wallet. Talking about buying stuff kinda makes me feel bad, especially because I don't win anything for it. I hope Guild Wars 3 does not get announced soon, or I'm going to feel extra guilty.
Smash the dragon, may it never rise up again.
Before describing what you can do at level 80, I felt it was necessary to talk about equipment. Equipping your character and making numbers go up is the backbone of every MMO, but since this is a horizontal progression game, the ceiling is already set, and that is the object of some confusion for newer players. Just like in other games, gear quality is color-coded. First, there is basic gear colored white, then is fine gear colored blue, and after is masterwork gear colored green. I have to mention, this is probably the only game I have ever seen where green is better than blue. When I was a young upstart, I would automatically choose to wear blue, thinking it was superior, and it was some time before I realized green equipment had better stats. The next two tiers are rare and exotic, both of them colored different shades of yellow. And this is where things get interesting. Most players will say that exotic gear is more than enough to tackle most of the content in the game, and that is correct. But there's still two tiers of quality above exotic gear, and that is Ascended, color-coded pink, and Legendary with the traditional purple color. Both of these are the strongest possible gear in the game in terms of stats, and there's nothing higher. But if both of them have the exact same stats, then what is the difference? Legendary gear is superior only because of the convenience. If you have a piece of legendary gear, it will be automatically shared with all your characters. It can switch stats at any moment. It can swap upgrades like runes or infusions without cost. It can also be glamoured for free without the need of spending currency. And of course, some of them have very pretty colors and effects. Now, at first I didn't think I was ever going to touch a legendary, so I just focused on gearing my characters with as many pieces of Ascended gear as possible. And it wasn't until recently that I started pursuing legendaries. Maybe you want to jump from exotic straight into legendary, or you think that is just too much work and prefer to slowly get some cheaper Ascended gear instead. That's a decision you're going to have to make for yourself.
Smash the dragon, may it never rise up again.
So, gear quality is easy to understand, but something that trips up newer players is the actual stats on the gear, as they seem almost meaningless while leveling up. Then you reach max level and you ask yourself, I want to use this spec, I want to fulfill this role, maybe I want to get into group content, what do I use? The thing is, there are over 40 types of different attribute combinations, and to be honest, most of them are just traps for suckers. Only a handful of them are really used in a serious manner. One thing adding to the confusion is that all these stat distributions have certain names that you're supposed to know by heart. This goes double if you like crafting because they decided to give recipes another name on top of the first one. So what should I use? Well, it all depends on your elite spec and what you want to accomplish, but by general norm, the most common ones are Berserker's equipment for strong burst direct damage specs. Wearing full Berserker is the most boilerplate equipment setup for damage, but is also on the glass cannon side, so you best be on the ball with movement and using the dodge button. For condition-based damage specs, Viper's is the most common choice. Just like any other game, damage over time takes a while to ramp up compared to the alternative, but is just as effective. When talking about support specs, things get a bit more complicated because they have to worry about a lot of things. The most common setups have a mixture of harriers and givers, but a casual soloer probably wouldn't go around as a support. And another alternative, which happens to be my personal favorite, is to use a condition focus spec with full celestial gear, which is basically the jack of all trades, master of none approach. Basically, you trade damage for survivability. And if most of your game time is just existing by yourself on the open world, this is kind of the perfect setup. Just don't show up to dedicated group content with it. Some people tend to get a bit incensed with that. Be aware that what I just said is the most basic of basics. Most min-maxers like to mix and match a couple of different things, which might not be possible for you depending on what expansions you own. So always do your own research or consult a specialist for your problem. Wait, that sounded really weird.
Smash the dragon, may it never rise up again.
Okay, so you reach level 80, you got whatever expansion you need, and you know what elite spec you're aiming for. You also know what kind of gear you're going to need. But what now? Well, I recommend going to the trading post and get the best gear you can afford. Chances are you won't be able to get the ideal stats you want, because the most used stat distributions tend to be way more expensive. You know what, let's go shopping right now and see how the market is for a new level 80. Let's say you're a fresh, core warrior that uses a two-hander and a longbow. And let's say you're aiming for a full DPS berserker gear of exotic quality. Now, the UI for the trading post can filter by stats, but a better alternative is to search the official wiki for the stat type, and at the bottom you'll see extra links to get to a list. In there we'll filter to see only the heavy armor and look at what's available in the trading post. There we can see crafted gear, and it's at least 4 gold per piece, which is outrageous for a new player. The materials involved in crafting these are very expensive themselves, and something only an experienced player could benefit from. But we are in luck, as it seems there is a much cheaper alternative. I'm actually surprised it has kept its low price over the years. Using the same method, I searched for the 2 weapons we wanted. At the end, the grand total was under 3 gold, which is completely within reach of a new player. Of course, this method won't work with every single stat distribution out there. Things like Viper or Celestial stats are going to be too expensive, but there's always going to be an alternative that gets close enough. Things like rings and accessories are a whole different issue, and you shouldn't stress over it too much. Just get whatever you can find without going broke. Once you are ready to venture to the outside world, it's time to pick an activity.
Smash the dragon, may it never rise up again.
Now, a lot of people that quit do so because they can't just focus on one single thing and end up losing their drive. The story approach is meant to keep you focused by playing story chapters, and even if you are a low-key story hater like myself, there are plenty of upsides to playing this way. For one, you get to unlock new zones for your health. The game is very inconsistent about this. Sometimes you need to reach a certain point in the story, sometimes you need to get a special item. It varies, but when you do it, it's pretty useful. Another good thing is that you get a nice head start on your masteries. Am I going to have to explain what are masteries? Fuck. What, you thought leveling stopped? Nope. The concept is simple. You fill the XP bar and then you buy a mastery with mastery points. Mastery points are found on maps or awarded by completing certain achievements. Most masteries will give some kind of benefit to all your characters, like making your mounts more powerful or gaining access to special vendors. The problem with masteries is that they are often used as walls that stop your progress. Take for example this chasm in Path of Fire. The only way to cross is to get the mastery that makes the raptor jumps stronger. This means that you have to stop and grind XP and find mastery points. This can be extremely irritating for a newcomer. To be fair, they have improved on this with new expansions. in the sense that I found new different ways to waste your time. But that's a fight for another day.
Smash the dragon, may it never rise up again.
Okay, now that I explained that, here's a very unwelcome mini review of every story expansion so far. Do people play this voluntarily? I have a mild dislike for Keith.
For you, hate!
I don't even remember what happens, but picking berries is still the best farm in the game. It's actually pretty okay, in a Saturday morning cartoon kind of way. It's probably the overall best so far, but the final twist is still kind of stupid. Okay, obviously a writer is channeling their ex-husband or school bully into Bram. How does this character even exist unless it's some kind of meta joke? A bunch of girl bosses push me around while the world building goes to hell. I think I just described every plot written in the last 20 years. Stop pushing the Quirk Chungus squad on me. I don't like them and I keep getting their names mixed up. Why do you speak so slow? I haven't even started the story, I just wanted the elite specs. I hear someone is gay or something, I guess I'll find out in 6 months.
Smash the dragon, may it never rise up again.
The Wizard's Vault will be unlocked upon reaching level 80, and it's a set of daily and weekly objectives that when completed give you astral acclaim. This can be used to buy rewards. By default, all objectives will be PvE oriented, but you can change this by using the cogwheel in the corner there. Personally, I prefer to mix PvE and World vs World because it makes tasks go faster, but the decision is up to you. I think this is the perfect way for a casual player to spend an average night. Just log in, take an hour or so to advance the Wizard Vault objectives, and then log off. And later you can buy yourself some nice things. The gallery of rewards refreshes every 90 days or so. That is plenty of time for a semi-dedicated player to get everything. The latest update that happened somewhat recently has changed some of the usual items. I'm going to go through the whole list and say what I think about each option. The Legendary Starter Kit. I think everyone should get this, even if you don't plan to assemble a Legendary anytime soon. The amount of money this saves is incredible. Too bad you can't sell the contents. However, buying this is always gated behind an expansion ownership. That's a very tricky move from the devs. 1 Ascended Weapon and 3 Ascended Armors. If you have a fresh 80, this is invaluable to get you started. You should get this as soon as possible, no question. Black Lion chest keys. Sure, but at least to me, cosmetic unlocks are very low priority. Essence of Gold. Everyone I know says this is pretty much useless. I tend to agree, but who knows, maybe after 100 seasons you get something good out of it. Transmutation charges. If you have been playing a while, you probably have enough. This is very low priority as well. Revive Orb. I have a lot of these on my main character, but I think I have never used one. Maybe I should start doing that. Both Primers. The true casual only eats free things from the floor, so I don't see myself getting any use out of these, unless I was some kind of raider that needs buffs to stay for a long time. Black Lion Salvage Kits. You should have a couple of these at the ready just for the very rare occasion you want to salvage an upgrade, but I don't see much point in having too many of them. Upgrade Extractors. I mentioned before that I have a lot of characters with Ascended gear, so I started hoarding these because I tend to change a lot of stuff sometimes. I would call it medium priority. Mastery Coffers. They are basically experience vouchers. The problem is that you can't choose what mastery track gets the XP, so it's kinda useless. Bag slot expansion. Always get it. I have said this many times, inventory space comes at a premium. Never waste a chance to get more. Build the storage expansions. I flat out can't see what's the utility in this. I guess if you're the kind of guy that has like 30 characters and many of the same class, I never get this. Build templates expansion. This sounds more useful than the previous one, but I think the default 2 builds you get are usually more than enough. Very low priority. Mystic coins. Always get them, they're always super valuable. I usually hoard a few and sell the rest, but observe the market first. As I was recording this, they just went below 2 gold. Thank God I am not investing heavily. Bag of coins. It's free money, always get it all and get it quick. Bag of laurels. I use laurels to buy recipes and crates with crafting materials, so I like to get a lot of these. What else are they good for, I wonder? Lucent crystals. These are super common and easy to make for a crafter, a waste of currency if you ask me. Tome of Knowledge. Another item that is already plentiful by playing normally. Maybe if you are really hurting for spirit shards, it could be useful, but otherwise don't bother. Vision Crystal. Also super common and easy to make for any crafter. Disregard. Mystic Clover. Even if you don't plan to craft legendaries for now, it's probably a good idea to stock up on these whenever you can. I certainly appreciated it when I started pursuing legendaries myself. Obsidian Shard. Another item that is very cheap to get in other ways. A really bad investment. Box of crafting materials and Essence of Luck. These are basically to dump every point when you have nothing else to buy. When I tried the box of crafting materials, I wasn't impressed, so I wouldn't really get many of these. Besides that, there are a lot of armor skins and emotes, and even a couple of unlockable side quests. That's where I got this cool spear and gloves, for example. So yeah, you could say I really love this system and I recommend everyone getting involved with it as soon as possible.
Smash the dragon, may it never rise up again.
Did you know the game has dungeons? Most people forget because almost nobody ever does them. They are the quintessential MMO dungeon. Fight trash, beat bosses, maybe do some kind of gimmick like finding switches or dodging traps or whatever. Personally, I find dungeon layouts needlessly convoluted and easy to get lost in. But if you have seen my videos before, I can get lost in a well-lit hallway, so take it with a grain of salt. Dungeons have an easy mode, referred to as story mode, and a more challenging mode called explorable mode. The whole dungeon system was completely abandoned in favor of other systems later on, and one of the only utility they still have is filling some of the story and characterization gaps. The game does this every once in a while, it just assumes you have done content right as it becomes available. This hurts a story that I already think is pretty weak. And even if you get out of your casual solo shell and manage to coordinate a group, they'll most likely rush ahead of you and not let you read the story anyway. Another valid reason to do dungeons is that some of the cosmetics are actually pretty good, but there are alternative ways to get them, which further proves that ArenaNet does not care very much about this mode. So yeah, dungeons are just a curiosity at best. If you have the correct build, a few of them are soloable, but the reward is hardly worth the effort. I wish they would pull an Old Republic and just do soloable versions, so that people will at least experience them once.
Smash the dragon, may it never rise up again.
What ended up replacing dungeons as an endgame activity are fractals, which are dungeons, but smaller. A fractal is designed to be quick. There are 4 tiers of difficulty and optional challenge modes for extra rewards. And I know what you're thinking. I'm a soloer, there's no way I'm doing this. And if you're referring to the upper echelons and the big rewards, then you're probably right. But it would be irresponsible of me to not tell you that A. You can still benefit from Fractals with little effort, and B. The easiest legendary in the game is right there waiting for you. You see, back in September 2025, there was a special event to celebrate the new Fractal Quick Play group feature. The event has been over for a while and a lot of the rewards have been taken off the table, but the set of achievements that give you the legendary gloves is still available. All the NPCs related to these achievements have been moved. To visit them, take this yellow teleporter in Lion's Arc. If you go to the achievement panel under Fractals of the Mist, you will find the Incursive Investigation section. To make a complicated story simple, you just need to gather a metric fuckton of fractaline dust. There are a couple of achievements to help you along, but the main method is just to do a lot of fractals by using the Quick Play feature. With the push of a button, this feature will put you in a group of 5 and it's going to choose from a limited pool of fractals. And I know, again, you're thinking of many excuses. I saw a video and it looks like a pain in the ass, I'm going to mess up, I'm going to get lost, people are going to make fun of me, blah blah blah. But let me assure you, these fractals are face roll easy and people playing them just don't give a shit. Between my two accounts, I've played like 200 of these things and people have talked maybe twice. You don't need to stress too much about your current equipment or build. Just focus on keeping up with the group and staying alive. If you for any reason get lost or the group gets too far ahead, just open the map and use the teleporter closer to them. Slowly but surely, you're going to work your way to a legendary pair of gloves. And even after you get them, you can still turn a decent profit by doing a handful of fractals a week and opening or reselling fractal encryptions.
Smash the dragon, may it never rise up again.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Smash the dragon, may it never rise up again.
It's no secret that I really like World vs. World most of the time. I know that there's a lot of people out there that just don't want to be involved with PvP in any form whatsoever, but hear me out. Sadly, I'm not going to go too deep with the description on how World vs. World works because at the time I'm recording this, they are going to start testing some changes to the scoring system and well, there is no guarantee that all those changes are going to stick. To keep it simple, World vs. World is a mix of PvP and PvE gameplay where the players are assigned to one of 3 teams. And they have to conquer bases, tear down walls with siege equipment and kill both bosses and other players to earn points. After a set amount of time, and depending on your participation level, you'll work your way into receiving various rewards. The main reason I like this mode is because it's PvP on a grand scale and you can just sort of fade into the background, which is ideal for the soloer-minded player. Just find a commander tag and join the group, or in the case of finding a close party, you can just stick to them like glue and get some credit anyway. And even if you're not a killing machine at PvP, you can still help your team by buffing or healing or assisting people in trouble, or setting up siege equipment, or just pestering the other team, even if you get disintegrated in under 2 seconds. Another reason to like it is that the rewards are just extremely convenient. For example, I can get a full kit of level 80 exotic gear with selectable stats for very cheap. Every time I level a new 80, it's fully equipped and ready in under 20 seconds. You can just buy hero points instead of going around the world unlocking them manually. And also get other things like any dungeon armor you want or access to certain relics without fulfilling the achievement requirements. And a very viable way of getting legendary equipment and accessories. Oh, and I have to mention that it's still the only way to get a Gift of Battle, which is a necessary item for a lot of legendaries. That is why some players don't have a good relationship with this game mode. Of course, as a soloer, you are still subject to some disadvantages. For example, you will be assigned to a different random team every week or so. That means there's a chance that you are going to get on a crappy team with no organization or worse, low participation. Sometimes you're just going to get tags that just spin their wheels and don't hit objectives, or sometimes just very few people are on because you logged in at a bad time. These kinds of things might make the drip feed of rewards seem way too slow. Despite the potential disadvantages, I personally really like this mode, but obviously it's not for everyone.
Smash the dragon, may it never rise up again.
It turns out that very recently, ArenaNet has changed a few things about how raids work, and also has implemented a feature similar to the Fractal Quick Group. The new tool will select from a limited pool of encounters and quickly assemble a party. It also provides some special buffs that make these encounters a bit more forgiving. Having said that, I chickened out. I'm sorry. This is where the soloer in me wins out no matter how many rewards are tangled in front of me. Sure, I could read some stuff and watch some videos and try to put together something, but I don't wanna pretend to know something I haven't experienced and shoot from the hip with potentially incorrect information. But I am not going to do that.
Smash the dragon, may it never rise up again.
I've talked about this in my previous video, but another healthy activity for the soloer is to open the events timer page on the official wiki and just hit any event that you can. The key, however, is to learn what events are the ones that are going to be more beneficial to you specifically. For example, I'm currently trying to craft a piece of legendary obsidian gear, so I have to hit as many events in Secrets of the Obscure maps as I can, and sadly there are only so many hours in the day. Other examples, like when I wanted to craft a weapon with a certain set of stats, I would show up to the Octobine event to get the requisite materials. When I wanted to use volatile magic, I would spend the evening on Dragonfall, and so on. There are also a few old-school farms you can do, like picking winter berries every day or mining blood rubies, because I really like those trinkets. Or simply go around the world gathering metal or wood. Sadly, I can't be more specific here. This is one of the times you're going to have to do some homework and pick all the places you need yourself.
Smash the dragon, may it never rise up again.
And that's all I got for you today. I hope this is useful for somebody, or that at least I kept you entertained. I'm getting close to my 1-year anniversary of playing Guild Wars 2 without cheating with another MMO, and I think making these videos every once in a while really helps. And talking about help, you can help me a little bit by doing all the YouTube things like hitting like or subscribing, or at least checking out my channel, which is mostly me playing Onslaught like the kids say nowadays. Hey, did you know that the legendary kits never have a gift of exploration? What do you have to do to get one of those again? Oh no. See you on the next one.